the session. So you look at India Mobile Congress. This is my first time here, and I'm actually very impressed with the size of the event, with the energy level over here, and the kinds of conversations. And you might be wondering, as Aruba, what are we doing here as part of India Mobile Congress, right? And Aruba, we've been a part of Hewlett Packard Enterprise for the last nearly 5 years now. We have the charter for what we call the intelligent edge within Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And the intelligent edge, we define the intelligent edge to be where people are. It's the intersection of people, places, and things that come together to either create new experiences or enhance existing experiences that are targeted towards end users, right? And our primary technology of choice to enable mobility is Wi-Fi. And why is Wi-Fi interesting to India Mobile Congress and the telco operators that kind of dominate the show over here? We actually believe that 5G is not a single technology or a single network that is going to be built. In essence, we model 5G as a framework to define the kinds of experiences that we're going to deliver, whether it is to end users, whether it is to businesses and industries, or whether it is to public sector and citizen services in there. So if you model that, we're going to use a collection of technologies and the networks that come together to deliver on these, but we have to make those seamless to end users, right? If you look around, each of us carries a mobile phone with us, and it has multiple radio technologies that we can use, but we are in the middle of choosing which network I want to connect to at any moment in time. So you got to make that part seamless. And so we believe that Wi-Fi, given its position as the dominant mobility technology indoors, has a very important role to play in bringing 5G out, in enabling 5G. We can go as far out to say that more or less all of indoor connectivity from a mobility perspective can be leveraged using Wi-Fi as a fundamental technology. So I wanted to use that framework to try and explain all the things that we do to help network operators deliver the kind of infrastructure solutions that are needed to fulfill the promise of 5G in here. So let's take a look at the experiences that we want to deliver or enable with 5G. These experiences are across many locations, many verticals, as we call. And you look at it, each of us potentially can go through some of these personas during our day-to-day lives, right? And I can start my workday as a commuter, then I can enter a building, which could be my office, my workplace, where I am an employee. I could leave, finish my workday and go to a mall and be a shopper, or go to an arena, be a fan, an arena or a stadium. Or I could be a student that wants to get better experiences in the form of learning, right? So we have experiences everywhere, in many places, and a lot of us go through these personas during the course of a particular single day, potentially, right? And when you put people in different places with the kinds of personas that they adopt in each of these locations, people come with expectations, right? Expectations around the kinds of experiences that they want to have, and how good they are, and how they enable them to do the kinds of things that they want to do at these locations. And it's natural to believe that experiences are primarily targeted to consumers or end users. And they are a significant part of the conversation we have in terms of the experiences that we want to deliver. But there's also two other stakeholders that we don't want to ignore, right? Which is lines of businesses. You look at industrial sectors, you look at facilities, you look at marketing departments. All of these have a certain stake in the kinds of experiences that they want to deliver, that they want to extract out of the physical space that we all operate in. And they are out there deploying the kinds of sensors, the kinds of devices that we can classify as IoT in order to enable them. So they are also a key stakeholder in figuring out the kinds of experiences that we want to deliver there. And finally, IT is responsible for building the infrastructure that we need to enable the delivery of these experiences in there. So while we focus on end users and lines of businesses, we don't necessarily want to forget IT operators. And a lot of what we do at Aruba is focused around the kinds of solutions and the kinds of experiences that we can deliver to who our primary customers are, which are IT operators in there. So a little bit of focus on that, right? The technologies and the trends that are driving the adoption or the creation of these experiences, including 5G as a framework to do that, we look at it as three primary ones, right? Mobility, which started a few years ago and has dramatically accelerated. If you look at within India, right, 10 years ago, how many people had cell phones to how many people don't have cell phones today? That's the right question to ask. So mobility is a key trend. Cloud is another key trend. Like all of these services, the applications that are being delivered out of cloud, and how cloud has been a key enabler in the acceleration of creation of these services and experiences. And finally, IoT. And as we talk about IoT, many times in conversations that I have with CIOs, the perception somehow is that it's coming, right? The IoT is coming, the number of devices that we're going to see is going to increase. Little do we know that IoT is already here in our environments in many shapes and forms in there. So how do we combine these technologies to go create the kind of infrastructure solutions that we want to deliver in there? But you look at those trends and compare that to the life of an IT operator from a few years ago, right? IT operators used to operate under a refresh cycle, right? That were about 5 years long, right? Every 5 years or so, you look at what is new, how do I refresh my infrastructure? There's a lot of activity around that point. You go configure it, and you don't touch it for the next 5 years until the next refresh cycle hits. Those days are long gone, right? The kinds of things that are getting inserted, the user expectations are shifting very rapidly with time. The kinds of devices that everybody is inserting into our environments, the kinds of applications that we bring in are changing very rapidly, that it could cause a lot of negative emotions with IT operators, right? You know, is it safe? How do I manage security where I have no control over the kinds of devices that are connecting onto my network? The kinds of application access, is cloud a safe thing? Am I ready to migrate my workloads over to the cloud? So it creates a lot of negative emotions under IT operators. And we ask our customers, do you find yourselves in a position where you're being forced to say no more often than you're forced to say yes, or than you'd like to say yes? Right? You're forced to say no because you just cannot keep up with the pace at which things are changing, whether it's users, whether it's kinds of businesses that are making these changes or that are demanding these changes. And if that is true, how do we, as a solution provider, translate more of those no's to a yes? Right? That's really what we look at. And you look at the solutions that we build, we want to go keep pace with the changes that are happening in our customer environments as well, right? And adopt technologies and trends in the solutions that we build for our customers in there. So mobile first is something that we started out where we bet that the world was going to go mobile. Mobility was going to become the primary form of access, and that has actually played out in there. So mobile first is one of the themes by which we develop our solutions in there. IoT driven, right? We have to absorb the pace at which these devices are coming into our network and make sure that things are all very secure. So in addition to absorbing from a connectivity perspective, we also have to make sure anything that we do into the network doesn't compromise the security state of the network. And finally, adopting cloud native technologies in how we build our solutions helps us participate more with workflows that are driven out of the cloud, so that the cloud isn't necessarily something that is seen as distinct from what exists on-prem, what exists within the building. There's a continuum that goes all the way from the edge into the cloud. And bounding all of this is something, security is a very important attribute for us. Security can never be a trade-off, right? Anything that you insert into your environment, if it compromises security, is never going to happen. So everything that we build, security is something that is all-encompassing across our solutions. But more recently, we've been focused on building networks that can kind of run themselves, right? If automobile companies can build cars that can drive themselves, we ask ourselves, can we build networks that can run themselves? So leveraging AI, machine learning techniques, and tapping into the data set that's already available as part of the infrastructure to allow networks to run themselves is a key component in there. And we look at it as a simplified architecture. I know the picture looks simple in here, but basically the infrastructure that decouples how we think about running the infrastructure from the medium of connectivity, right? Whether it's wired, wireless, or wide area network connectivity, the medium of connectivity is less important. We have to kind of build out the infrastructure layer that supports those connectivity options, but really create a platform on which we can migrate a lot of our software that drives the infrastructure to deliver on the experiences that we want to deliver to our customers. And the validation for us comes from many different areas, right? If you look at analysts like Gartner and Forrester, they've placed us in the leadership quadrant. They called us out as the most visionary company in this space, in the wired and the wireless segment. But more importantly, in addition to the analysts, the piece of validation that we take seriously is customer validation. And in the last couple of quarters, we've had the #1 market share when it comes to Wi-Fi in the enterprise segment, and that is something that we work hard, and we are glad to be here in this. So this is validation of our approach to how we build our solutions in here. We basically want to get our network operators to go past uptime, right? Uptime is no longer something that you get credit for. Uptime is assumed, it is for granted, and so if that is true, how do we now create solutions that allow you to go past from being reactive to being proactive and potentially predictive? And this is where the data that is inherently present in the infrastructure, getting combined with some of the AI and machine learning techniques, allows us to create solutions that either operate themselves or at least provide deep insights and actionable insights to network operators in there. This is something that we've been investing for many years now, and we're starting to realize the fruits of those investments in the solutions we're delivering to customers. So as we talk to customers, there are three things that CIOs and their teams necessarily are interested in. And everything boils down to these three questions, right? When it comes to the infrastructure that we have to deploy and manage at the edge, is the network ready? Right? Can we make it easy to deploy, configure, and operate so that our ability to absorb some of these use cases is significantly higher than it was a few years ago? Is it secure? Because everything that we do has to be secure. And so what are the tools and technologies that we can create that allow us to absorb these newer use cases and newer devices that are showing up without compromising security? But ultimately, if we're not going to be measured using uptime, how do we know how well a job we're doing, right? If the metric by which IT teams are going to be measured is user satisfaction or successful delivery of the experiences that users and businesses demand, how do we know how well we are doing? So we need mechanisms by which we measure and respond in a very agile manner so that we create solutions where the end users and businesses do not see the network as ever going down or ever being satisfactory down there. So these are the three questions that all of our internal development in terms of products and solutions here to answer in there. That brings me to the end of my presentation.